members of council, administration, and anyone viewing us on YouTube. We'll call the meeting to order, and before we start, I'll read the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We have the adoption of a moment of silent reflection and playing of our national anthem. Thank you. We'll move the adoption of the agenda of September 13th, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Diucho Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, that'll be noted in the minutes. Adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at August 23rd, 2022 be adopted as presented. Councillor Desjardins and Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries. Mayor's comments. I have a couple. Good evening, everyone. The town of LaSalle is deeply saddened by the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. On behalf of council, administration, and the residents of the town of LaSalle, we extend our condolences to the royal family, the United Kingdom, and the Commonwealth during this difficult time. As the fall season approaches, town staff are getting ready to close the outdoor pool and splash pad. The last free recreational swim at the outdoor pool is Saturday, September 24th, and the splash pad closes on Sunday, September 25th. Many kids have enjoyed these free amenities this summer, thanks to Pathway for Potential for supporting our free outdoor swimming. LaSalle Night Market the LaSalle Night Market last of the season is happening Sunday, September 25th. Our staff have worked hard to make this well-established event, and it shows. Attendance has increased at each night market, and there has been a variety of vendor booths and entertainment for everyone to enjoy. Check it out if you can. We have a report for appointments to the Municipal Election Compliance and Audit Committee. Our clerk, Ms. Astrologo, will take care of that one.
Thank you. Through you to council. So as you are all aware, we have to appoint a compliance audit committee. This is a standard procedure and required under the Municipal Elections Act. The committee has to be appointed by October 1st of this year. Listed before you are 4 applicants who submitted applications in response to our call for applications. All applicants meet the established requirements of the committee, and in the report, there is a table showing their diverse set of skills, each of them coming with different backgrounds. So what I'm looking for this evening is that council will appoint these members to the committee. I'm available for any questions.
Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Did you have a lot of applications?
No, we did not. These were the 4 applicants that did apply. We only received 4. My understanding in the past is we've had difficulty getting applicants to apply for this committee. This committee is not, it doesn't meet often, and it requires a specific skill set. So we are actually very happy that we received 4 applicants.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Malash. Move the motion, support Councillor Carrick. Anybody opposed? That carries. Thank you. Ms. Beggs, street naming request for Silverleaf subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This report deals with a street name request that we received for the Silverleaf subdivision. The request came through from the developer and the developer's applicant. The names have been vetted by municipal administration in connection with engineering services, public works, and emergency services. So the names being recommended and requested to council tonight are Tulio Lane, Mayo Boulevard, and Silverleaf Street. I'm available for any questions.
Before we go to questions, can you just state why Mayo Boulevard is going to show up twice where it's already on Donato?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Mayo Boulevard actually goes through, it's going to be a continuous street. So ultimately it will connect all the way through. It was identified as such in our approved master transportation plan, as well as identified in Schedule D, I believe, of our official plan.
Thank you. Council questions. Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Councillor Akpata. Anyone opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Strawberry Festival post-event report. Ms. Finaro.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. The report before you is a post-event report just to review the financials from this year's Strawberry Festival and some other key highlights of achievements that we were able to accomplish this year. I will pass it over to the finance department to review the final numbers in terms of budget. However, I would also like to point out we had a number of other areas that were very successful this year. One being that this was the first time we were able to offer online sales and have a electronic point of sale system at the festival. This was quite successful and allowed us to greatly reduce the amount of cash that was kept on site at the festival, as well as reducing the time required to count and reconcile cash. Another area that we were very successful this year was in safety and security. We had higher numbers than we have ever had that we're aware of, yet less incidents than we typically have. And we attribute that certainly to LaSalle Police and their assistance with us creating a safety and security plan well in advance, as well as working with our security company to help address issues that we've had in previous years. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out that the pandemic did have a profound impact on the festival and event industry, as many are aware, and we were able to contribute to the recovery of that industry in many ways through spending in areas related to festival and event delivery, as well as hiring local entertainers and event supply businesses to help support the festival. So that concludes what I have to report, but I will pass it over to Mr. Ferraro to discuss the financials.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The financial report is attached to the report, and I'd like to highlight that the revenue was significantly over budget. So gate sales were very high, approximately $55,000 over the budgeted amounts. Again, strawberry and ice cream sales were higher than planned as well as sponsorships. So certainly the planning and the good weather all contributed to the success of the Strawberry Festival, specifically the gate revenue. The expenses were maintained on budget despite those higher sales. So certainly the operational staff was able to maintain budget for all of the items overall. And there was some minor over budget items. However, they were certainly offset by other things that came under budget. So overall, a very successful Strawberry Festival financially. And the daily gate sales were over and above each and every day of the event.
Thank you, Ms. Finaro and Mr. Ferraro. Any council questions? We'll go with Deputy Mayor Malash, Councillor Reno, then Councillor Carrick.
Thank you very much. Through you to, I guess, Mr. Ferraro, I think this question will be for you. It was a great success, and the new online system was definitely liked by a lot of people. I think the one question I received a few times was, would we ever consider debit at the gate, like a tap? I know right now credit card was accepted, but you had to go in to the bank machine, grab cash if you needed that system. So is debit an option with what we do right now?
So the system that we are using currently does not accept debit, and that is part of our active networks. It's a subset of our active system. However, that's something we can review for the future year, of course, but for this year it was not something that was accepted.
Thank you very much. And again, a great success. My only suggestion for maybe next year is an additional iPad for getting people in a little bit quicker, because the turnout was great. We just really couldn't keep up with it, even though I know it says it was like 20 people a minute or whatever the stat was in here. We still had those really, really long lines, and hopefully we didn't deter any people from coming to visit us, but congratulations to all.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Reno.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Two things. I noticed later in the agenda, there's a bylaw that talks about $55,000 in a pickup from the government for the Strawberry Festival. So when you add 55 to 55, you're at 110. And now we already had 61,000 in reserves walking in. That's a substantial amount of money compared to the budget that we have. And what I'm wondering is if for a future council meeting, if administration might be able to prepare some options for how that money should be used in the future, whether or not we save it for a festival for a big entertainment year, or whether we transfer some of that money over to infrastructure for the new park that it will eventually go to. I'd like to see some options come forward, because I think to have that money sitting there when it could be doing better things possibly might be something that we should look at. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reno. Councillor Carrick, then Councillor Dicho Spagnolo.
My comments will be brief. Excellent job to everyone involved. Very positive outcome, especially coming off a pandemic. You guys did a great job. And you do have to leave some money in a reserve though, just so we have some rainy day cash, just in case. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Carrick. Councillor Dicho Spagnolo.
Thank you, through you. Just a comment briefly, great job on a successful event, but I do have one question, and I think we might have explored this before. I know that typically on the Friday of the Strawberry Festival is a PD day. I'm wondering if there's any way we can explore having that as an open day to start a little bit earlier. I am aware that we use a couple of those hours for sensory. However, I do know that I did receive a lot of emails or calls this year just because it was a PD day and we have a lot of children who would have probably wanted to attend during the day. So I'm wondering if that could be an option of maybe we can explore that as an option. And then just another comment into Deputy Mayor Malash. There is a tap system. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the tap system. We have that at several of our events, which is great. It's literally, they just tap their credit card or debit and to any amount that you set it. And you can get people in within like literally 5 seconds. It's very, very brief. So that might be an option that you might want to explore as well.
Thank you, Councillor Dicho. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick clarification and follow-up for our finance team. I'm not suggesting that we empty the rainy day reserve fund. I'm just looking for a reasonable amount to carry forward, whether that be 20% of the budget, 40% of the budget, and then the excess funds to be used for something else, some options. Okay, thank you.
no more questions. I have a couple. I'm not sure who wants to take it. I hear the online sales were good. A suggestion was made to me, if we buy online, should there be a quicker line we can go through for next year? Just something, or you can entertain. I don't need a comment now, just something to think about. Ms. Finero?
Thank you for the question. I can address that. We have started to have some meetings and planning meetings for next year, and that is one of the options we're looking at is a quicker line. And then if I could just go back to Councillor Riccio's comments and questions, we certainly will explore the PA Day option for next year. We have explored it in the past, and we have tried opening earlier. We at that time, we didn't find that we were getting the numbers we'd hoped for, and so it became a little bit of a coordination effort between the carnival and them having availability of staff and our vendors being able to be on site, but we certainly will explore it, particularly given the high numbers that we had this year. That might be a way to offset some of the crowds and allow them to get in earlier. And again, we will be looking at a faster line for those that pre-purchase in advance next year.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. Just to kind of comment on that, because I've been on that committee for so long, you're correct. We tried many years on that Friday, and it seemed to be grandparents bringing the younger ones, which was great because they were uncomfortable coming at night when the crowds were too heavy. And I just checked, it definitely is another PA Day again this year. So possibly maybe if we put it out sooner than later, because I know when we did it, we made the change like last minute going, oh, by the way, it's PA Day, we're going to open at 2 o'clock. And people are like, yeah, we can't be there. We didn't plan for this. So maybe if we plan for it now, we could see if it works, because it does seem like that Friday every year is a PA Day, and possibly that might help with that congestion on Friday night.
All good comments. Thank you. Council's pleasure. There's a recommendation before you. Moved by Councillor Desjardins, Councillor Reno, all in favor. That carries. Thank you. And summary of reports to council. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Carrick, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. We have 2 bylaws, all 3 readings, bylaws 8736 and 8737. Councillor Desjardins, Councillor Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Any committee matters? Councillor Carrick.
I can through you, myself and Councillor Desjardins were at our last ORCA meeting, and we were kind of pressing the ORCA administration in regards to our hydraulic report that's coming and the review that's being done. And that they had mentioned that it looks like the end of this year, 2022, we should have that report. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get that report so we can start moving forward with the drainage issues and potential drainage issues down the road and water levels, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carrick. Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to put Patty on the spot a little bit, just because we did have a recreation meeting last month, and until the meeting minutes come forward, there's council members that may be interested in the fact that we are planning our first event for the event center. And I was just wondering if you might share a little bit about Santa. We talked, I was in the same meeting as you, right? It was, if you could share a little bit, just so that council's aware, because it's going to come up really quick.
Certainly. Thank you for the question, Councillor Reno. I was not in that meeting. I was on vacation at that time. However, I am aware that that was discussed. So given that we don't have an exact date that we will be able to be in the event center and finish everything up, but we are hoping that that will be in the coming weeks. So we're planning towards the annual Santa breakfast, pancake breakfast with the mayor to be hosted at the event center, and hoping that will be our inaugural family event hosted there. So typically that, as you may be aware, that was hosted in the past at the Vollmer Center in the lobby. We usually had to do 2 sittings to try to accommodate everyone, and even yet still had people that we often couldn't accommodate because we only had so much room. So we're working towards bringing that event back for the first time post-pandemic and hosting it there. So we'll have a lot more room to be able to accommodate more children and families.
Thank you very much. I just wanted that shared.
Thank you. Any questions or statements by council members? Deputy Mayor Malash, and then Councillor Akpata.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bondi, through you to maybe Mr. Mara for the first question. And that's just kind of sitting on what just came up is do we have an update on that building?
Thank you. Currently, the contractor has indicated the end of September is the turnover date for the event center. Once we have that turnover date, there is work that the town has to do in terms of office furniture, furnishing it, and IT equipment. So certainly that's what we're currently working towards based on what the contractor has provided us as of right now.
Thank you very much. And number two, I know most of us are on social media and have seen some things posted recently that are a little bit concerning regarding our parks. There have been a couple incidents recently that have been a little bit more serious in nature and things we aren't really used to in LaSalle. And I know police has been involved and is doing their job to try to, I don't want to say stop what's going on, because I know it's almost impossible to do, to be at all of our parks all hours of the day. But I think it's time municipally that we look at some sort of, honestly, I don't want to call it a policy. I think we need to do something. We need to come up with our own plan of action to take our parks back, more or less. We're seeing vandalism, we're seeing bullying, and we're seeing, like I said, this week, something very serious that could have seen a lot worse of an injury than what actually happened. One thing that concerns me, and I didn't realize this because my kids are older, so I don't usually go to the parks at night, but my daughter was riding her bike at 9 o'clock at 9:30 through Marcotte Park, and she called me because she's like, I don't like being here by myself. I said, what's going on? She goes, it is pitch black here. I said, okay. So she talked to me while she rode her bike through, and I thought to myself, I'm going to go back tomorrow night and see how bad it was. And she's right. Sitting in that parking lot, I could not tell you who was 10, 15 feet in front of me. It is so dark in our parks that I would like us to look at. I don't want to light them. I realize the cost of installing electrical and stuff, but I think we need to look at something maybe as far as solar lights, something that's maybe a sensor. I'm sure police can also talk about what happens in parks in the dark, especially when they're that dark, and the items that are being found in our parks the next day. It's becoming an issue. So I think it's time as council, we look at with administration, some sort of strategy to make our parks safer. And I don't really know who to direct that to or how we move forward with that, but maybe our first step could be the possibility of lighting up these parks with some sort of a sensor, solar light, just to deter some of the things that are happening in the evening hours.
Mr. Mara.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Melange, if that is something that council wishes to bring forward, that is probably something that would have to be referred to budget. Certainly that aspect has a cost to it, and we would start to look at what does that mean and work with LaSalle Police on how much lighting is needed. I do know that there are instances where these parks are in people's backyards as well. So it's going to be tricky on how we design lighting for some of these parks. But if council wishes to bring something forward to or refer something to budget at this point in time, then we can certainly take a look at that through the budget session and bring something forward in some sort of plan over a number of years to address some of those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. I have Councillor Ekpata.
Thank you, Worship. A comment and a question. Once again, unfortunately, to provide safety in the province of Ontario, the Toronto Police Service lost Constable Andrew Hong on Monday, ambushed while at a training session. So to you, Chief, please let the men and women of the LaSalle Police Service know how much we appreciate them. Question, I think, to Ms. Beggs. A question about budget. Not budgets. That'd be the gentleman down at the end. About bylaws. I was speaking with somebody about alignment of bylaws, and I just wanted to get your input or your insight on aligning the budget, the old bylaw 50/50 with our bylaw 8600. Some differences have been brought to my attention, and I don't want to misunderstand the conversation I have. So if you could explain how we're going to be aligning these budgets, bylaws, to make sure that everything goes. Tono's presentation was so inspiring that I'm just drawn to him. So it's to make sure that I understand how the bylaws can be aligned to ensure that we're able to allow for approved uses in these areas.
Ms. Beggs.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Arpetta. Yeah, as long as we're talking about bylaws and not budgets, I can help you with that answer. So I think it was in August of 2021, we adopted the new comprehensive zoning bylaw for the municipality. And by way of that adoption, it repealed the former zoning bylaw, which was bylaw 5050. And so it's a brand new document, and we're working through some of the kinks. There's some growing pains associated with that document itself. And there are some instances where there are certain zone categories, and what was a permitted use in that zone category in 5050 wasn't necessarily recognized as a permitted use in the zone category in 8600. So we are going through that sort of growing pain process, if you will. And we're identifying those gaps. And it is our intention to come back to council in the new year with the housekeeping amendment, where we will rectify some of those issues.
Wonderful. Thank you, your worship.
Thank you, Ms. Beggs, on the budget issues. Councillor Horacio Spagnolo.
Thank you. Through you, just to the town on behalf of the Corporate Challenge Committee. So Megan, Emmy, myself, and the rest of the committee, we just wanted to express our gratitude to the town for everything that you did to work with Megan and the team for our Corporate Challenge event that happened on Saturday, September 10th. It was a great success raising money for the Cancer Foundation, and she just wanted me to express her thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Horacio Spagnolo. Any other council statements? Notices of motion? Confirmatory bylaw, all three readings. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Horacio Spagnolo, all in favor. That carries. We have our schedule of meetings and meeting adjourned. Thank you, and thank you, any